Capoeira is an art form. It's a cultural expression that was born in Brazil of African heritage. The enslaved African people that were taken from their homes across the ocean and made to work in horrible conditions, in oppressive conditions in Brazil. Capoeira was a fusion of African art forms as well as indigenous expressions, and it was created as a game that the enslaved African people could play together, a way for them to share culture, to share history, to empower themselves, and use it as a mechanism for liberty and for freedom, as a way to separate their mind and their body from the situations that they were living in. The diaspora of Afro-Brazilian culture has spread through shows and performances around the world, first through Europe and North America, and later into Australia, which is where I first discovered Capoeira. And since meeting our master, Mestre Cicatriz, he's from Rio de Janeiro, he came along. He lived in Australia for almost 20 years, and he shared Capoeira and Brazilian culture and batucada and maculele and samba de roda and all of the beautiful, amazing elements that came from such a horrible background. And then I was fortunate enough to travel back with Mestre to Brazil a couple of times, and we've worked in projects in areas where disadvantaged kids are then further exposed to Capoeira as a means and a mechanism for them to find a way forward and to continue to grow in a much more positive path than, again, the destructive elements that could be around them. The first time I saw Capoeira was in a movie called Only the Strong. It was back in 1996, before the days of Google, before you could just get online and find something quickly. It took about 3 or 4 months of asking around before I finally found someone who came to me with a flyer with a picture of a guy doing a capoeira move, and I went straight to the class that night and started to train and really just fell in love with the whole art form. I came from other martial art backgrounds, so when I saw that movie, I was like, wow, it's martial arts, it's acrobatics, it's music. It had so many elements that were really appealing to me. So my real name is Dean. But since I started training Capoeira, the nature of the art form is that people get given nicknames, and so my nickname became Soquete because I have big legs and I'm allegedly kick quite hard. So Capoeira created an environment and a place that was really positive and really welcoming for me. It helped me to grow as a human being, and it kept me busy and kept me in classes away from other destructive elements that were present in my life. And so I became more and more Soquete and less of Dean. And now Capoeira is a part of my life. It's an everyday thing for me. As an art form, Capoeira has a huge and a strong martial art element. What makes Capoeira unique is that all of the other combat systems or fighting styles or martial arts from around the world, they've all been built and created for destruction. Capoeira is at the other end of the scale because it was built for peace, for freedom, for love, and for liberty. It was an art form that was an expression of peace, of freedom, and in that way, it's very different from all other martial arts that I've ever come across. As an art form, Capoeira is way more than just a martial art. The elements that were fused together to make Capoeira the art form it is were drawn from necessity. The music and the acrobatic side were used to disguise the combative training, but they are also elements that have grown alongside or with the whole art form. The music and the instruments and all of the other cultural expressions that come along with Capoeira. Like I say, the diaspora of Capoeira and Afro-Brazilian culture has happened outside of Brazil because of the music, the art, the culture, and the dance, in performances and in shows. And slowly, the Capoeira masters have settled into different areas of the world to share their passion, to share their knowledge, to share the information that they have. And so when you come to Capoeira, you're going to learn musical instruments and the songs are going to tell you about the history, and they're going to tell you about life lessons and along with that celebrations, samba, Brazilian drumming, the batucada that we play, the maculele, the dance of the warrior. There are so many more elements than just two people trying to hurt each other. That's definitely not a major focus for capoeira. So outside of Brazil, teaching capoeira can be more of a challenge because non-Brazilians don't really get the context at first. They don't have so much understanding and information on where capoeira has come from and what the history of Brazil is like. And so it's our job as teachers, especially a non-Brazilian teacher, to make sure I understand as much of the culture and context as possible so that I can share that. And then adults can handle it differently to kids. So there's a game we play called the Senzala game, and it's about how the enslaved African people were not allowed to practice capoeira, and they had to hide in the bushes and sneak out to play. So we play a game called the Senzala game for the kids' classes, and the kids sit at one end of the floor, and they're all in their little house, their little Senzala. That's the house where everybody who works on the farm lives. And then we set up another mat at the other end of the room where the person who owns the farm is there. And we play music and we sing songs and we learn about what the songs mean. And they keep playing the music until the farmer falls asleep. And then that's the kids' cue. It's okay to go and practice their capoeira. They come out into the middle of the floor and they practice their capoeira moves until the farmer wakes up, and then they have to escape and they have to run and hide. Otherwise they're going to get caught. So it's a fun way to teach the concept and some of the context for the history without getting too deep and too dark for the little ones. In 2010, I spent some time in Brazil with our master, Mestre Cicatriz, and groups of students from all of our other countries. I received the level of instructor during that trip, and shortly after that, my wife and I decided to move to Canada. We've been living in Australia for years, but she was born here in Canada, and we were having children. We needed family. And capoeira is a great family, but when you have other family, you need to make sure there's people to help with that. So we came to Canada. I started teaching here in 2011, and my goals was just to share capoeira with the people of Toronto, the people of Canada. Capoeira had made so many positive changes to my life that I really wanted to facilitate the same change in other people, to grow through capoeira, its metaphors, its stories, its art, its expression. And we managed to do that really successfully. Here we are nearly 9 years later, and we managed to open a full-time academy. And so capoeira in Scarborough in Toronto is really growing. We're expanding, and our ultimate goal is to have an amazing place where people can grow and learn Brazilian culture and Brazilian art and positively influence the lives of other people. My eventual goal, I became a professor in 2015 in another Brazilian trip, and hopefully in 2021, when we go back for another trip, we might get another progression in my belt system. I may become a mestrando. Who knows? There's a lot of work to be done between now and then. But ultimate goals, the progression of the belt systems in capoeira is much like the progression of humanity, of people in general. When you come to a class and you're a beginner, it's like having a brand new baby. They need to be handled and fed, and they need to be given everything slowly and carefully. And as they start to come through the first belt and second belt, it's like being adolescent. So they're a little more capable of doing things on their own, but they still need drive and direction. By the time they become a graduated student, it's like you're in your teenage years. You're pretty self-sufficient, you can do a lot of stuff, but you still need that guidance. By the time you become instructor, it's like being a parent. You have your own children and you're helping them to grow. When you become a professor, again, you're older, you're going to have more kids to look after, more things for more growth. By the time we're reaching the levels of mestrando and mastery, you want to hope that you're in your grandparent phase, where your own students are then teaching their own students, and you can see that growth not only in the mindset and maturity of the student, but also through the course of their life. So that's one of the things I find really amazing about the goals and the progress of capoeira.